In this video, I'm going to show you how to replace the washer fluid tank on this Chevy Silverado 2500. It's located right behind your front driver's side fender liner. That's where we're going to access it through. So let's install this brand new TRQ part. Let's take off this brace from the top so we can access the battery. We actually have to remove the battery that sits here. If your truck has two batteries, if your truck just has one, then this won't be here. 10mm socket. Now let's disconnect the negative battery terminal. Use a 10mm socket and loosen up this nut. Okay, that comes right off. Set this aside. Do the same to the positive. Now looking right behind the battery, you'll see a 13mm bolt holding down that piece of plastic. That's just a battery hold down / retainer. We have to get that off so we can remove the battery and make space. Sometimes these can be very tight. Keep that in mind. There it is, and there's the retainer. Now you can remove the battery. With the battery removed, you can see a 10mm bolt right over here. That's one of the ones that holds the washer tank. Take that out, and you have another one right over here. Remove this one as well. This should be loose now. At the front of the fender liner, remove these two 10mm bolts to free it up from the splash shield. On the front of the fender liner, you'll see another 10mm bolt. Let's remove that as well. Pull the fender liner out from behind the bumper. If you have a fender flare at the top, you'll see some screws. For me, they're all 7mm. There's 4 of them in total. But if you don't have this, then, well, you just skip over this step to the next one. Pull this off. Now let's remove all the push clips that hold this on. There's one over here, and then just continue along and remove the rest of them. Remove all these 7mm screws up here. Now you can pull this fender liner down a little. Reach in here and pop all of the harness retainers off of the fender liner so you can actually lower it a little bit more. Now with this out of the way, you can see your washer tank. So let's remove another 10mm bolt right over there. Wiggle it out of place. Unplug the level sensor. And now we have to unplug the washer pump, which is going to be somewhat challenging because you can't really see it. It's right back here. Push up on the connector. The connector looks like this, just a slight bit bigger, so you have to pry up on this tab and unplug it. And then we have to disconnect the washer hose from the washer pump. Also, gonna have to feel for that. Okay, there we go. I'm gonna plug up the washer pump so it stops leaking. Now just wiggle this tank out of place. Okay, and there it is. Bring in the new washer tank. Stick your hand up through the top and guide it into place so it doesn't grab any wires on its way and damage anything. Before you bring it all the way in, plug in the washer hose. I know it's difficult to see and to reach. Then you're gonna have to also feel for the connector on that washer pump and plug it in. I think I got it, yep. It feels like it's connected. Bring it up a little more, connect in the level sensor. Plug that back in like that. Now, let's line it up and put in this bottom bolt so it can be locked in. Snug it up. Now let's put back this top bolt. Snug it up. And this one down here through the battery tray. Now all of these connectors have retainers on them, and now is the time to put them all back. There are several, 5 or 6 of them, that need to get clipped back into the fender liner here. It's very difficult to see as you're doing this, just because you have to reach in here, push the liner up, and then match up the hole, press it down. Try your best to secure them all. These are very important main connectors that control the engine, so you want to make sure that they are attached without dangling around so that they don't get ripped off of here by accident. With all those in there, I'm going to put the outer bolts of this fender liner back on just so it'll hold it back in place here. And those are the small 7mm screws. Try not to over tighten these, they do break easily. Let's get all the push clips back in. Start with whatever lines up first. Don't forget about this bolt that goes through the fender liner and onto that washer tank. Snug it up. If you had a fender flare, grab it and re-secure it. Now get your battery back in. Make sure it lines up. On the back there, you want to make sure the bolt hole for that hold down bracket is visible and that it has space to obviously go down in there. Let's get this little bracket in. Make sure it lines up between those 2 dimples and put the bolt down. Start it on by hand and then let's snug it up. Just make it nice and snug. You don't need to crush that down. That little bracket is plastic and it can break. As long as the battery doesn't move around, you're good to go. Reconnect the battery, start with the positive, lower it down, and tighten up this 10mm nut that squishes down on that terminal. When you tighten it, just give it a turn or 2 and make sure it doesn't move. Once you snug it and it doesn't move, stop there. If you over tighten it, it can either break or stretch the terminal, and that would be bad. If you have a cover for this, cover it up. Mine's broken. Bring the negative over and line this one up also. Connect it. Same thing, tighten up the nut. That's bottomed out. Give it about 1/8 of a turn extra. I can't spin it, so I'm good to go. This does not have a cover. Put back this bracket and snug it up.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.